And as we're here on at Radio Row, this is how it works. I mean, you get guests all the time jumping in like Dean Blandino, and we didn't get a penalty for all this. He's Joe, I'm Jason.
And this is mine, right? I can take this?
Yeah, you cannot take that. There's tequila on the table that was left by one Emmett Smith.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, that's I mean, we love talking.
I didn't bring any gifts. I'm sorry.
What the hell's wrong with you?
I don't know. What's going on. Is that a penalty? That was the protocol.
Is that a foul?
That's a foul on me.
That's a foul. Dean, I mean, everybody, you're the rules guy, right? So many rules in question. Do they need to take this out? Do they not? Now, there was a game earlier, and we were debating it quite a bit on our show. The fumble out of bounds that becomes touchback. That's too much of a penalty, isn't it? Will that rule change?
I don't know if it'll change. I like the rule personally.
I do too.
I think the end zone's different. I think when you're talking about a game that is predicated on gaining yardage, and the closer you get to the goal line, look, if you get that ball in your opponent's end zone, that's a touchdown. If the ball's dead, if a loose ball dead in your opponent's end zone, whether it's a punt, a kickoff, a fumble, that's a touchback. I like the rule. I think it's simple. I think it underscores how important ball security is, especially at the goal line. And I get it. I understand the argument that it's too punitive, 100%. When a guy's trying to make a play and he just happens to lose control and it happens to touch the pylon, when if it went out of bounds 3 inches this way, they keep it. I like the rule where it is. The end zone's different to me.
Dane, how about hang on to the football? All right.
Yeah,
I mean, just hang on to the football.
And that's what they coach.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
And that's what they coach is, hey, at the goal line, let's live, let's not on first and goal. Let's not turn it over.
Yeah.
We're going to have a second and goal. So I like it where it is.
I get all that. If the defense doesn't recover it,
and that's always,
it's like if it goes out of bounds at the 4, it's out of bounds. Now, I think there could be some sort of penalty, like, all right, you fumble the ball out of bounds, we're going to put you back on the 20, something along those lines. Of all the things, and you've been involved in spring leagues, and in San Antonio, we had a team in the Alliance and the XFL, and we're going to be in the UFL, and some of the rules differences that they use in the spring league. How many of those do you like that you think could make their way into the NFL?
I like a lot of the rules. I was involved with the XFL last year, and in 2020 when we had really a blank slate, and we could just kind of say, okay, what do we want to do here? What do we want to do with the kickoff? What do we to promote more returns and keep the game, keep it in the game, but keep it safe. And so I like a lot of those. I like the transparency that we did in the spring leagues, where you can see the replay process and listen to what is being said. Because I think right now with the NFL, there's too much. It's just they make a decision and you're wondering, well, how did they get to that decision? If at least if people could hear it, they might not always agree with it, but they'd have a better understanding. So I think the spring leagues, it's a great platform for us to test different rules. We've got a good collaboration with the NFL, and I think the NFL is looking at some of the things that were done in the spring leagues, and we'll continue to do that.
What do you think that the NFL though is? You say they're looking at it. Are they interested in changing the game in that way? Do you think?
I think they're going to be with the kickoff. They're going to have to do something, because right now the kickoff, the returns, I mean, it was a historical low, right? It was about 22%, I think, during the regular season, which never been below 36%. So you're basically eight out of every 10 kickoffs is a touchback. And so think about Sunday, the whole place is going to be going crazy. Everybody's standing up, and then 80% chance that we're just kicking it into the end zone. Everybody sits back down, and we do. So is this going to be a ceremonial play, or do we want this to be a real play in the game with real, returns and all? And you think about the onside kick, it's become much harder to recover an onside kick, that's an important play in the game, because that, if you can't recover an onside kick, you're down 2 scores with 3 minutes to go, you're done. You can't come back. So I think that the league is going to have to look at those things.
Do you like the idea of on the onside where it's a 4th and 12?
Fourth down play, yeah. I do. I like it as an option. I think we're going to do it in the United Football League it'll be a 4th and 12 from the 28. You can still go onside if you want, but in the fourth quarter, if the score's tied or you're behind, you can go with that 4th and 12. And it's an exciting play. Who wouldn't want to see, Patrick Mahomes with, a one, you got to have it play with 30 seconds to go. It's a lot of fun, and that's the benefit that we can make those changes in the spring leagues.
Dan, when you look at, and I'll just take this year as an example, it seems like the scrutiny of the officials is more and more and more. Now, I know social media probably has a lot to do with it, but is there a problem with the officiating, or is it the same as it always has been?
I think the scrutiny is greater than it's ever been, and it's only going to increase. You think about, like you said, social media, and now with legalized sports betting and everything that goes into these games, there's a responsibility on the league's part to make sure that the games are officiated. You don't have major mistakes. You don't have what happened in the NFC Championship game in 2018. I don't think the officiating is significantly worse. I do think we're at a tipping point, whereas how much technology do we want to use in the game? Because I have seen more instances, especially this year, where officials are deferring to the person upstairs and they're not making a decision. It's a close play and they're kind of indecisive. I think that's not good for officiating. Like, make the call, officiate what you see, and then replay can come in and correct it if needed. And I think we got to find that balance where they officiate the game, they make calls, and then let's correct the obvious mistakes that are going to have a big impact on the outcome of the game.
Dean Blandino joining us here on the Blitz, and that kind of goes back to Spring League, the Sky Judge, who is another official out there. And generally, it's not like, all right, there was a holding call way over here, let's call that. But it was more of an assist, just another set of eyes that it does that need to be implemented more at the NFL level?
I think you could. Again, I always worry about, I don't think anybody wants to see the game just every play re-officiated from the booth. It would take too long. One of the things we did in the XFL last year, we gave the coach one challenge in the game, and they could challenge anything, but we limited it. And that was strategic, because you're saying you use this in the first quarter. There's 3.5 quarters left. You've used up your one like get out of jail free card. So you got to save it for a critical moment. And a lot of the coaches did. And we were able to correct some mistakes that had a negative impact on the outcome of the game.
I find it fascinating because we've talked to a lot of players here, defensive linemen, offensive linemen, and the defensive guys say that I'm getting held every day, every play. The offensive linemen say, well, we're not. So you watch a game, though, there is. Typically, it seems like you can call holding on every play.
Yeah.
How does the official?
And I think that's, and you hear that a lot. There's certainly grabbing on every play, right? Offensive linemen, like you go back and watch like blocking videos from the 1950s, and they were like that's not how we block, right? Everything's outside the frame. There's a lot of grabbing, but that's not just holding. Then the official has to look at the body position of the offensive lineman. Are they keeping good feet, right? Are they staying in front of the defender? Or am I staying square to you? Now, if you beat my feet and you get outside of me and now I don't let go, that's when it becomes holding. Was it at the point of attack? Did it have an impact on the outcome of the play? So while there's grabbing on every play, it doesn't always raise to the level of holding, because you have to consider those other factors.
So when you whine, do you say, dude, that was grabbing, not
It's
holding?
fascinating with Micah Parsons, because you think about a guy who's that good, whatever it was this year, right? He had 11 straight games or whatever without trying a holding penalty. I just think those things, it's not intentional. I think those things, it's different crews coming in, and it's an anomaly, right? And then like the playoff game against the Packers, he draws 2 in the first quarter. Yeah. So it's
with that though. Referees are human. I know they're going to go out there and be impartial, but when you hear a guy as often as and we're a Cowboys affiliate station, right? Yeah. But the whining's got to stop. Do referees kind of hold that it's got to be egregious, man, if you're going to get a flag?
There's that human element, and I always talked. My role at the league office when I was in charge of officiating was dealing with coaches all the time, and I used to tell coaches all the time, think about in any other aspect of your life. If you are whining and complaining to somebody constantly, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to want to give you the time of day? They're going to tune you out. So it's just about dealing with people. And look, but there's emotion involved. So you get that part of it, but it's about communicating with people, and you've got to do it. And I get when Micah Parsons is frustrated, the officials are supposed to tune that out. They're going to call the game the way they see it. But it's hard, especially on the sideline, when you're an official and you've got a coach in your ear the entire game. You're like, you know what? I don't want to listen to you anymore. That's human nature.
Why are some officiating crews better than others?
I think it's just, look, the goal, the challenge, the hardest thing about officiating is getting all of your officials. You have 7 officials on each crew. then getting all those officials on the same page. Then you have 17 different crews, getting all 17 crews to look at the game the same way. A lot of it has to do with the referee, the white hat, that the leadership comes from that person. And if they run their crew the right way and they communicate and they're consistent in their messaging, also the leadership from the league office has to be consistent. But then it's just like anything else. Why are these two teams playing in the Super Bowl and 30 other teams are at home? You have different skill levels. You want all your officials to be the same level and everybody to officiate the game the same way, but it's not a perfect world.
Dean Blandino joining us here on The Blitz. A couple of things that we hear a lot, and I'm curious the level of how much this happens. Coaches send in plays after every game that they want reviewed. The referees get graded every play or every game, right? How brutal is that grading process, especially when you get the tapes from the coaches where they want explanation?
It's fascinating to see like these officials, and we've tried to go away from it because it does create that environment that's more stressful. The grades would typically come out on a Wednesday, right? They're like on pins and needles waiting. It's like getting your report card. And because that's where the accountability comes in. I don't think everyone doesn't understand. They are held accountable because how they're evaluated is going to dictate whether they get a postseason assignment. And there's obviously you're going to get a postseason bonus if you qualify for the playoffs. If you don't qualify and you're in the bottom tier, you may get let go at the end of the year. So it is really stressful for these officials, and we've created this environment because they're held accountable on a lot of different levels, and it's a really hard job.
Should officials in the NFL be full-time?
I think there's an opportunity for the officials to do more, especially in the off season. You look NBA referees, NHL, Major League Baseball umpires, they work the games they're assigned to. There's just more games during the week, right? It's not like on a Tuesday that crew, it's an off day. They're not working a Mavericks practice. They're just not. They're studying. They're doing what NFL officials do, but football's different. You play once a week. So the way it's evolved is I can have another job, right? But I think the way officiating has evolved at the higher levels, when I started in the late 90s, they had a full-time job. They officiated on the side. Now, the compensation's at a point where they officiate first and they might have a gig on the side, and they spend a lot of time during the week, Zoom calls, looking at film, looking at their last game, looking at their next game. I think there's an opportunity in the offseason, and whatever you want to call them, whether you call them full-time or not, I think you got to put the resources behind it to give them an opportunity to continue to improve.
Is it becoming more difficult with the scrutiny out there to find good referees?
Young officials. We have a hard time at the lower levels because these younger folks get involved and then they have a bad experience and they don't want to do it anymore. And that's a trickle down. We always talk to our announcers. We talk about how they talk about officiating, that you can disagree with something, but just be mindful of even, being disrespectful, because then that trickles down, because you'll be at a youth game and you have parents, adults who are yelling at these officials who are kids, they're teenagers, and then they don't want to do it anymore. And then you lose good people at the lower levels. And then that has a trickle up effect where you don't get good quality people moving up the ladder.
Because, people don't forget things. Like Des caught it, right?
Yeah,
Des
you know what?
It.
I'll make you guys a deal. If you give me Emmett's tequila, I'll go on the radio and say that Des caught it. But that's just...
Yeah, Des caught it. Des caught it. Cowboys would have won a Super Bowl that year.
You know what?
It's not worth the tequila.
It's not.
Aaron Rodgers still would have had 4 minutes and the ball. Then you got to go to Seattle. Then you got to beat New England in the postseason.
Yeah,
but in the Super Bowl. But that was it. That cost them the Super Bowl.
That's it.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Right.
Des caught
Cowboy fans.
Dean Blandino, man, great catching up with you here in Las Vegas on Radio Row. More coming up here on the Blitz on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.
AA Best Bail Bonds. Big game coverage live from Las Vegas. Powered by Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds, Synergenics, and 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.